James Ernest, Grilling Truth, here with Virgil Zwicker. Virgil, tell us about how you are the res dog.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I was actually born in Beatrice, Nebraska, in my dad's residence. I was raised out on my mom's reservation out here in San Diego. I'm pretty much Kumeyaay Indian from the Sapasko Indian Reservation. I'm an old band member there. So I was born and raised since forever. Grew up out here on the reservation out in San Diego County, up in the North County. It's like east of the mountains a little bit.
Nice.
And just growing up, we kind of grew up a little rough in the mountains, and pretty much all in the area within the surrounding area. There's about 13 different reservations, and it's kind of considered an Indian country, meaning like there's only a few towns in between all the reservations, and everywhere we would go, anytime a town, I think the nearest city for us was Escondido, so we'd go down there, and every time we go down there, the people with parties from schools to youth sports or whatever, they'd be like, oh no, the res dogs are here, because that's what we had like a little ruthless attitude and behavior that people were kind of timid about having us around. So the stunner just took on us when anytime we came around, it was like, oh, the res dogs are here. I've always used that as a positive, as well as that moniker of being a tough Indian guy. So most men on the reservation, we call ourselves res dogs because we grew up on the res, and most of us just say that. So I've always used that name as just to represent my people, my brothers from all the reservations.
Okay, so it originally started out as like a group nickname, and then you've kind of more incorporated into a self-identification.
Yeah. So it's basically like most guys from the reservation consider themselves a res dog, because we're born and raised on the res, most of us. So most of us that were born and raised on a res, or basically just raised and grew up and kind of rough and tough on the res, consider themselves that. And I took the name on more so just to represent the people and the bros on the res.
Oh, nice.
And now it's just been stuck with me, so I like it.
I hear you come from a small family of only 12.
Yeah, right. A little more than a bigger family, but yeah, there's 12 of us, 6 boys, 6 girls. My mom and them. We're up in those mountains trying to stay busy with no TV, no water, no food, nothing. So they try to keep themselves warm, I guess.
I know what you mean. I was going to say my grandpa was one of 17, so I can somewhat relate. Yeah.
It was funny because my mom's side, there's 8 sisters and 4 boys, and all the girls pretty much have, like, I think my aunt has 13 kids. My other aunt has about 9 or 10. My other aunt has about 8. Big family. We have a big family. So.
Oh, nice. So yeah, family reunions, get-togethers, holidays, and all have got to be quite interesting.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that's kind of unique about my reservation is we're one of the only reservations, not the only one, but we're one of the select few that have pretty much direct descendants where we're all pretty much related. So that kids and cousin stuff doesn't go on our res.
Cool. I hear growing up, your older brother was a Golden Gloves boxer. Did he have a big impact on your love of combat sports?
Yeah, he did actually. So 2 of my brothers actually. My oldest brother Julian, he's 11 years older than me. He grew up. So when I was born in Nebraska, that's kind of the reason why I was born in Nebraska, out in Nebraska, instead of my mom's reservation, because he was out there at the Junior Olympics place training and fighting for his coaches out in Nebraska. And my other brother Roy, he's about 9 years older than me. He was the silver medalist in my brothers are Golden Gloves, and he took silver medalist, and then they both started training at the Junior Olympics, and then I was born. So they both were kind of really big into boxing. My dad was too. All my brothers pretty much were fighters, not professional, but just tough guys. And me being the youngest of all of them, I got the wrath of being molded and scolded by all of them. So it was kind of cool, because that's what I've always been able to say to people is, most of my skills are from my brother, my brothers, my mom, my dad, because that's how we were raised. We were raised to be tough, and we argued, we fought each other, we go outside and we have to scrap. It wasn't fun, but at the same time, they molded me into being the toughest. I wouldn't say I'm the toughest one ever, because they pretty much beat it in me to know that you can never beat up your older brother, but they molded me for sure.
Do you Did you feel that you missed out on the opportunity to play football? I know early on you were supposedly very highly rated in Pop Warner, but unfortunately missed out on high school or college playing. Do you feel that that might have been a possible career path for you?
Oh yeah, I actually did get to play. So I got busted at 11, and when I got out, the coaches at Orange Grove High School in Escondido gave me an opportunity to play. So I did play as a freshman, and I made it all the way. As a freshman, I made it to the varsity team, and averaging like 12, 13 tackles a game. Had really, really good high hopes for myself, and I'm pretty sure I could have made it as far as I wanted to go with the sport, because that was my passion. Was football, not even MMA, and I think I could have. That was kind of like the love of my life growing up, and I know for sure I blew that opportunity, and it just happened to work out really good to where at least some kind of sports and athleticism, it was able to transform me into being an MMA fighter. But yeah, I definitely think I could have made it.
At what point did you transition? When you decided that you were going to stick with MMA?
I think after I got out of prison and I had my son, I was 25, and I had two fights before I went to prison, and I really didn't take them serious. I wasn't even thinking about being a fighter or anything. I was just needed money and running from the cops at the time, and the way it worked is my brother had been fighting, and he got hurt, and they didn't want to go out and get anybody, and I was like, I'll do it, I don't care. And he knew I was tough and fighting on the res, and he got me the opportunity to get in there and fight before. So when I got out of prison, I had ran into one of my friends, and he had been one of the toughest guys I know in football, and now he was telling me about jiu-jitsu, and I didn't really know anything about it, so I was going there with him, and first thing he does is, I took him down. I was kind of like beating him up, and he got me in a double armbar. And I remember that from that day on, I was hooked. And I just said, "I'm here, man. What can we do?" So we just trained, and I took a fight, like 3 to 4 weeks out of prison. And every day we trained, and I took it serious. And I think I just became addicted with that aspect of being focused, being determined, and not, the way it was so hard in the gym for me. Even though I was young at the time, I was like 25, I think, and I don't know, I just really needed it at the time because of my mind and barely getting out, wanting to stay focused and not go back. And it just stuck with me, man. And then, I was successful too at the same time.
You fought with many organizations, UFC, Strikeforce, Bellator. What were some of your favorite things about the different organizations?
I guess to say the people. Majority of the time, I'm a real people's person. I love to, and I've actually fought all over, Europe and Mexico and kind of all over the world now, China. But I definitely enjoy meeting good people and fighting against some good opponents and just being able to travel and different cultures. I love that aspect of it. But there's that one part because I think as an early start of my career, I kind of was getting promoted locally to where they were making me the bigger, grander styles to sell tickets and stuff, and I had really big crowds. So early on, I had a lot of pressure, to sell out the venues and places. And I didn't really like that. So when I started going with these bigger organizations, they took all that worry off my shoulders of having to get people tickets or having people there. So it was really comfortable to do that. But I definitely enjoy meeting and being able to work with a lot of different people.
Who do you feel was your toughest opponent you fought?
Toughest opponent I fought was probably Gucho Inocente. I think that guy was one of the best fighters I fought besides Linston DeSalle. I think he was another one. And I think with Linston, my mind and stuff that I was going through outside of the training and everything in my personal life got involved in kind of carried over into my mind mentally to go into that fight to where I wasn't even there, to where I wish, that fight happened so fast and so done and over. I didn't really even after the fight when I lost, I just who cares, because everything else outside of my career was going pretty much, the other way, and I just had to focus on that. But honestly, my favorite fight ever would probably be a kickboxing match with Sergio Piquel. But MMA-wise, I think, I've been in some good ones. I've liked the fight with Houston. I think me and him had a pretty good couple of scraps. I really enjoyed the fight with Sergio Pico because we went 5 rounds and we beat the dog out of each other for 25 minutes. I think my nose was broken, his nose was broken, blood was squirting everywhere, and I enjoyed pretty much getting into wars. Nice. But I mean, on paper, I would probably say Hogan, St. Preux. Physically, and everything that went through, I would definitely have to say Linston or what you call Guto Innocente.
What do you feel the biggest difference between the kickboxing and the MMA was? What did you try differently between the two?
I just enjoy the aspect of MMA as far as the different octagon, the practice. It's just way different compared to kickboxing. Kickboxing, I enjoy more. I do love MMA and stuff, but it's just harder on my, like, now that I'm getting older, it's hard on the body, so I think with the training aspect, it's just a lot more, I wouldn't say easier, but it's more comfortable for the body with kickboxing rather than MMA. But MMA, I don't know, it's just such a adrenaline rush and adrenaline feeling of knowing, you got to be worried about that. You got to work. You got to transition from so many different parts of martial arts to where you don't know what this guy's capable of doing,
If you could fight anybody in the world today, who would it be and why?
It's a good question. Man, I don't know. There's a lot of guys I would definitely enjoy fighting. I would probably have to say maybe, let's see, who's out there right now? I would enjoy fighting, like Alistair Overeem, Steve Miocic. Those guys are pretty awesome. I would definitely want to fight pretty much anybody that's out there that thinks they're cool. I don't like the guys that get all the, like, they don't. I feel like they haven't had anything really to do as far as market themselves. Like CM Punk and those guys, I would definitely like to fight someone. So some of those guys like that haven't earned the spots like myself, who've been around. I'm a veteran in fighting since 2001, 2003, I think it is. But yeah, definitely as far as to challenge myself, Alistair Overeem, someone elite like that, King Velasquez.
Nice. Tell us about Team Quest and how it impacted your career.
Yeah, so first of all, I was training at this local gym in Escondido called Unleashed, and I had developed myself and trained myself to where I was getting really good, and I was getting pretty much to be the better one of the striking aspect and wrestling aspect to where I just needed to get pushing. I was one of the bigger guys in the gym. So I go up to Temecula, which was kind of the nearest city where I lived at the time. I was living on Res. And by the time I got there was the who's who of who. And I really didn't follow the sport. I still kind of don't follow the sport to know who I was in the room with. And at the time, I think there was Boss Root and Jason Mayhem Miller, So Could You, the who's who. Mark Munoz, I remember the first time I sparred with him. We probably didn't even know who we were or anything. And I had came in, I was still kind of really green where I like to brawl, and I go to brawl, and the next thing you know, I see my feet up in my air. Just watching my feet go across the freaking ceiling, and it was Mark Munoz. He just power doubled me and flipped me over. But Dan has been amazing, a mentor as well as amazing, head coach for all of us. He's all the guys that I've been training with, like a Jesse Taylor, like a Fernando Gonzalez, Tarek Savadine, all these guys that we've been together for years. Sam Alvey. It's just been amazing because we have built this bond through fighting and beating each other, molding each other, that it's just inseparable. Whenever we see each other, like, hey, it could be months or whatever, but it's just like we didn't miss a beat because we've been punching each other for so long. And we've all gotten better. We've all gotten better. We've all been able to be successful in our careers because of how hard we train and what we do there as far as being and pushing each other. Iron sharpens iron, so.
Exactly, and unfortunately, that's one of those things that people outside of combat sports just will never understand. That bond that you make between you and the other fighters that you train with or fight against. That there's that respect level because they know how hard you work and you know how hard they work. That it's just kind of one of those interesting things, like you said.
But one of my favorite stories is mine and Ovince's. I think undefeated at the time. I think I was 8-0. Our manager at Team Quest at the time they needed a fighter. I had just fought a week before, and when I came in the gym, they're like, "Hey, Virgil, you want to take a fight in Puerto Rico?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I guess too." And it was supposed to be against Lance Evans, Sean Evans' brother. Mm-hmm. And so I took the fight on like a 6-day notice. Flew to Puerto Rico. When I get to Puerto Rico, I find out that Lance Evans didn't show up, so they were bringing Oven St. Preux from Tennessee on a 4-day notice.
Sheesh.
So we don't know anything. We both took the fight on a couple days' notice apart. First round, I kind of, I was getting him good. Yeah. Second round, he comes out, makes me look like the Alpha Man, and like with 40 seconds, I underhook, get up, and knock him out. And after that, we both were like brothers. What we had went through, the whole taking the fight last minute, beating the dog out of each other. Whether we won or lost, we just enjoyed each other's company, and what we had pushed each other to the point of breaking him. Man, we definitely had a bond of friendship that I don't think anybody would ever understand. When you have somebody who's mounting you and dropping elbows on your face to where you're literally looking like the Elephant Man for, I had probably about a month I was tore up. To where I brought him over to my house. He stayed with me for a month. I stayed at his house. It's been awesome. We've been friends ever since 2009. He's been a part of a lot of my fights camps, and same vice versa. And it's just that's just the wonderful thing about the sport, where people who don't understand just competing, but let alone like. Most people think that when they do fight, or for sure on the streets, it's about being angry. Or nowadays, it's like I still am like I still have to work on all that stuff. But knowing when professionally, I try to be the nicest guy I can to all my opponents because of how hard it is to be in there, to step up, to train, let alone fight. And to me, fighting is the fun part. Training is the hard part.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the courage that it takes to get inside that cage is just amazing, or to get inside the ring. So I know what you mean 100% there. Of your people that you train with, the people that you see at the different schools that you go to, that you may not be that big name that we know yet, but you think is going to be huge in the future, who would you say?
I have a couple guys actually. There's one of my. I've been telling. He's been my pretty much my best friend for the one I was telling you, who even got me into the sport. And his name's Waylon Kennel. He's got like a 6-1 record right now, but he's just been so injured. Like he's a black belt jiu-jitsu, and he keeps on jamming his neck. Like, but Waylon Kennel, there's another Indian brother from Campo Reservation out here that I've been helping and mentoring, and he's an up and comer. He's like 5-0, I think. And heavyweight guy, Domingo Cuero, out of our gym in Team Quest. There's Jordan Parsons and another guy. Anthony Reyes, I think it is, and then another Hector guy who's can't remember his. I think it's Hector Ramirez, or no, Hector's not the thing, but he's really good, and he's got a lot of potential. He puts a lot of work in. Those are guys that I enjoy watching. I'll tell you one thing: helping coach and mentor these guys, it's harder to watch them fight than myself. So those nerves and everything just gets me all jacked up. But there's another awesome guy that's been. He was killing it in the kickboxing circuit, and now he's transitioned over into MMA. His name's Isaiah Alvarado. He's another guy I definitely think that you guys will be seeing here on the scene.
Nice. That's good to hear that, there's such great talent coming out of your camps.
Yeah, and, a lot of them, they're humble. Nowadays it's so sad to see what the sports come to when it comes to these local promotions, not the big ones, because it's gone away so far as this amateur thing. Like when I was growing up and fighting, there was no amateur fighting, period. I think I had my first professional fight before any amateur stuff, and now it's just, I just see locally, at least on these regional circuits, it's really kind of hard to watch and hard to see some of these matchups that these promoters are putting on, or their shows that they're putting on, because they're building these fighters up wrong. At least for the guys that grew up like myself, Jesse Taylor, all of those guys, Fernando Gonzalez, we had to go through the toughest guys that were out there. We were able to pick and choose. We weren't able to freaking turn down fights. It was, if there's a fight, let's fight. And that's what's made us into great fighters. I think nowadays, most of these fighters who are so worried about the win rather than putting on an exciting show, are so worried about just being that I'm a fighter. That's what they care about more about than competing. And I'm not saying that's all of them. I just think that that's what kind of the aftermath of what these promoters have come to by just turning most of their, trying to make $1, off these amateurs. And I just really wish that there was something where most fighters, I get the experience of becoming an amateur, but at the same time, and I feel like they're being used,
Exactly. Yeah, I know which I mean, then the promotions don't really have to pay them. They can just give them a medal at the end of the night, as opposed to the share of the fight that they deserve. And and then I've heard that a lot from other fighters, like Brad Kohler was saying about how they just people dodging and trying to get that undefeated record, as opposed to trying to, like you said, put on the best show possible.
And I get more frustrated with guys who are. There's a couple guys out here locally that I know that just they try to promote them. They try to act. I mean, they're walking around with amateur bouts, calling themselves this, calling themselves like. Man, I think if they were more humble and more appreciative of the sport, rather than picking and choosing and only wanting to fight and only get to build this, like, to me, that's not how it was. Exactly. To see how most attitudes are happening now is because of the promoters.
Do you currently have any sponsors?
I do. I actually have a few of them, and I actually have a huge fight coming up December 16th for WFCA in Chechnya. I'm going to be fighting Fedor Emelianenko's brother, Alexander Emelianenko.
Nice. So if you would, tell us about those sponsors, and then, definitely tell us a little bit more about that fight.
So, first of all, I want to thank most of them that have always been these sponsors. One thing about myself is I've always been really proud and honored to represent most of these people, because they've been by me and stuck by me for years, and I'm one of the biggest guys out here for sure that has been out in the business for a long time that have 30, 40 sponsors a fight. And some of my biggest ones are definitely JTY. His name is Jason Young, JTY Windows and Door Specialist, Pros Therapy. I got Frank Phoenix International, Native Fence Companies, Rick's Garage, CVAC, Float Experience, Baja Catch, Fresh Grill in Temecula, La Cocina de Reyes in Temecula, for sure the Apollo Band of Mission Indians, Paradise Chevrolet in Temecula. I also been working with my friend and helping him along for years to build his brand, and that's the Unity Prime, so like a clothing company, and also Juan's Rotisserie Chicken in Temecula. Casino Gold Pawn Shop in Valley Center. Let's see who else. Duke's Mesquite Grill in Temecula. Broad Brothers on the reservation in Rincon. The Sapsco Indian Reservation. And, of course, let's see who else am I forgetting. Pizza Factory in Temecula. It's one of my bigger sponsors for my football team and for my sport. And then, of course, UTV Underground. And Skin Clean floor designs out of Marietta.
Nice. Yeah, so it sounds like things are going good there. And you said you got your big upcoming fight in, where was it again?
It's going to be in Grozny, Chechnya.
Wow. So a little bit of a travel to get there.
It's going to be a little bit of trouble. I actually fought there in May against their champion on a week's notice, too. And it took me 4 days to get there, but I'm excited for this matchup. I think this is probably the toughest matchup that I've been in, only because of the travel and the name. I'm really excited to fight. And Emelianenko, I think he's a lot bigger than Fedor. He's got really good boxing, better than Fedor. But I'm going to train really hard for this fight. It's got plenty of time, and I'm really, really excited to go over there again and put on a show for them and make sure that they know how tough we are out here.
Exactly. How much time do they give you to get acclimated to the environment? Do you go over a couple days ahead of time, a week ahead of time?
So the last time they flew me out 4 days before the fight, but it took me 3 days to get there. So I literally got there and walked right on the scale. It was horrible. I had slept in probably 3 days. It was horrific. This time, because of what happened last time, and I took it on the last minute kind of. They're flying me out at least a week early. So I should be fine and acclimated, but it was pretty rough the first time, and that was one thing that I was kind of didn't really want to take the fight, is only because of that travel, because I don't think there's too many planes that go to Chechnya.
Exactly, yeah, because I was going to say your willingness to fight is very evident. Obviously, in the past, you've taken, like you mentioned, the Puerto Rico fight in such short notice, but yeah, just going out there and, like you said, getting off the plane, getting on the scales is going to add a degree of difficulty to a fight that it sounded like going against their champ was automatically going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely, and I was feeling good about that fight, and it was, I matched it up well, and I'm hoping a win over Alexander will put me right back into face him and rematch him, because he's, there's been a couple fights in my career where I wasn't proud of, and I definitely think that was one of them, as well as, the Linson Vassell fight. But I'm not taking anything from either one of those fighters. They both showed up and they both did what they were supposed to do. That being said, they didn't see the best Virgil Zwicker that was there. So I'm hoping that I'm really focused and determined. I got my beautiful family behind me and all my coaches and supporters here, and I'm going to do something different this time, which is kind of come out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to cross-train with a lot of gyms and people that I've never trained with, just to get out of that feeling to where when I did get there the last time, I mean, I don't think I've ever felt so exhausted and just mentally drained, let alone physically drained, to where I didn't even pull the trigger or do anything. And it was apparent in my fight, because just happened so fast and so wordless,
Definitely. So where can people follow you on social media? Do you have a website? Do you have Twitter? What is the best way to learn more about you for the fans?
So you can definitely follow me at ResDog1916 on Instagram, at Virgil Zwicker on Twitter, Virgil Zwicker on Facebook, and on my website it is. I'm still in the developing stages of making it, but it is. One second, I have it written down. It should be done by next week. What's my website? VirgilZwicker.com.
Nice. So it sounds like there's plenty of opportunities. Where would they be able to see video of the fight? Is that going to be on Fight?
There's still, so I'm hoping to have the website done to where they will be able to go on VirgilZwicker.com, and they'll be able to stream it, because there will be a stream to watch the fight. The last time, because I think it's a day or so ahead of the time that they. So I'll be fighting on the 16th, which is a Saturday night, but you guys will probably be watching Friday morning.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean. When the Olympics are in other countries, it just throws the schedule off. I know what you mean.
Yeah, that was kind of hard for me, is understanding the time, because you're losing days, and for us, we went to three different time zones from east to west, but then we went from east to west to south and then back up around, because they flew. I went to 5 different countries on that trip, which is crazy.
Yeah, that definitely is going to be crazy, man. I have enough trouble trying to keep track. I want to have a Bellator interview because it's on the West Coast and all, trying to get the time right, more or less. Trying to get a time right. And
where are you at?
Oh, I'm in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky.
Oh, really? Kentucky, nice. Yeah. Bluegrass.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah, it's a nice area.
It's pretty up there, huh?
Oh, yeah, shoot. It's nice right now. I mean, it's raining today, but for October, it's been 70 most days. I mean, we've been so lucky.
It's 103 right now in Temecula.
Oh, my. Yeah, I was going to say, I like warm, but not that warm. Dang, 100.
I love where I lived in Valley Center, because it was mountains and cold growing up, and now it's just been ridiculous, where it's like freaking Palm Springs, and you can't even walk outside during the day because it's just so hot. Oh,
yeah, that's no good. Yeah, I was going to say...
Yeah, it's good for training, though. I'll tell you one thing, the wrestling room gets up to about 200 degrees, and you're cutting weight so easy.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, yeah, like you said, just walking, probably you cut a couple pounds going from one place to another. But, yeah, we thank you for coming on. Any final thoughts that you want to tell your fans or people that supported you over the years?
I've always just wanted to always be grateful to and thankful to God for what He's given me with my health, my life, my family, my beautiful people that's always been in it. I thank you guys for always all your hard work and always doing the due diligence with fighters just like this, giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I think it's amazing that there's such a platform for us to have that in this sport. And for sure, my kids, my wife, Carla, and my kids, Duke and Mania, that's my spirit, my backbone. And without them, I don't think I'd be here, period. And of course, all my coaches and my teammates, I couldn't be who I am, what I am as a fighter without them. And everybody that's always going to be behind me, and those that are against me, them too. That's always been a good fuel for my fire. So, and of course, all my Indian brothers all over the Indian reservations and Native American country.
Excellent. Thank you, Virgil, for coming on the show, and we definitely look forward to following up with you in the future as you win those titles.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and I look forward to hearing back from you. And hopefully, when I get back, we can do another interview with that win over Fedor's brother, Alexander Milenko.
Sounds great. Have a good one.